Our next coach is Chris Jans from Mississippi State University. His nickname is the Dentist. The Dentist. Because his teams are known for their suffocating defense, toughness, methodical style of play. Others will say playing against them is like a trip to the dentist. Chris grew up as one of 5 children in Fairbank, Iowa, small town in the northeast part of the state, population of about 1,000 people, played Division III basketball at Loras College. In Iowa, had a coaching career at the small college level, including 6 seasons as a junior college head coach. I spent 1 season as a junior college player back in the 80s, so we have probably junior college stories that we could swap some night. He remains, as a unique fact, the last basketball coach on the men's side to have a victory over the University of Connecticut in the NCAA tournament. His teams have made 5 NCAA tournament appearances, and I've enjoyed seeing Chris and Sherry at a football game where I've talked to her about the mutual experience of running marathons, and she just completed one of her own. So with that, Mississippi State University head men's basketball coach Chris Jans.
Sure. Yeah, I just have a few questions. It's fine.
All right, we're going to go straight to questions with Coach Jans. If you'll raise your hand, we'll get one of the remote mics to you. And please remember to identify yourself and the outlet that you represent. Raise your hands. Let's start on the front row in the middle.
Hey, Chris. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You know, you're one of maybe every coach in this league is taking teams to the NCAA tournament, but 9 teams are ranked in the AP, which is more than I think the SEC had in the football preseason poll. And everybody thinks about football, but really basketball is just as good, if not better, than football. If I don't get hit by lightning or something for saying that. What's your thoughts of the league and just the depth and the coaching and the athletes and just everything about how good basketball is now in the SEC?
Certainly get that question a lot about, you know, what your opinion is of the league and how tough it's going to be, et cetera. And I love it. Like, I love being in the SEC. I love being in a league that has such great competition. And at the end of the day, you know, our goal is obviously, one of them is to get into, you know, March Madness and to play in the NCAA tournament amongst others. But having those kind of opportunities each and every night, you know, makes that goal a little bit more attainable for most of us. Scheduling is obviously difficult. But knowing going into a conference season that you're going to have a bunch of quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities in the end of the day, you know, is what you want. So it certainly can be daunting at times if you let it get the best of you. And everybody's got runs in their seasons as they look at their schedule where, you know, they got 3 or 4 games in a row where it's going to be tough. But it's that way for everybody, and it's just how it works when you're in as strong a league as you are in the SEC. But I love the fact, you know, that there's 9 of them in the AP 25 to get people thinking about college basketball, in particular, be thinking about the SEC. Obviously, we're not one of them, so it's great motivation for our players here in the last, you know, 2-3 weeks of practice before we get on the floor. But it's gotten stronger and stronger. This is my 3rd year. Certainly, I don't know how this year will play out, but the league's gotten better and better each year that I've been in the SEC.
Other questions for Coach Jans? Please raise your hand. Let's go to the 3rd row in the middle.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
I want to ask you about Josh Hutton. Josh had some excellent year last year. He was a freshman. He's coming into his sophomore season. I just want to know what you think about his growth and what his role will be.
Yeah, Josh is a special human being. He's a better person than he is a player, and that's no slight to his game. Everybody that follows, you know, college basketball, or certainly our league, knows what kind of year he had as a freshman. He kind of took it by storm, if you will, didn't have those kind of expectations. And a lot of people ask me in the postseason if I expected him to have that kind of year, and my answer is always no. You know, I never dreamt in any world where he would have that quite an impact. And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone else did, other than, you know, Josh and his family. They have a special family. They have a lot of belief in one another. And Josh had been preparing for that kind of stage, you know, his whole life. Now that I've got to work with him over the course of, 15, 16 months now, his work ethic is just off the chart. He's so committed to his game, his career. But for me, in a selfish way, he's such a great teammate. You know, he's taken a leadership role on this team as a sophomore. He's found his voice. I've encouraged him behind the scenes to find his voice. And people ask, you know, how can he get better? And that was one way I thought he could get better for us in our program, was to take on more of that old school leadership role. And he can do that because he works so hard every day. You know, he didn't do this last year. And he didn't do it all summer, but for some reason, since the fall began and school started, and we're now in the midst of, you know, our longer practices, you know, he wins almost every dang sprint, you know, and that's not the case last year. He's in a better shape than he's ever been. He's more athletic than he's ever been. He worked hard all year long with our strength coach, who did an excellent job with him. So I don't want to put any pressure on him, even though I don't think he'll shy from any of that. You know, we expect an even better year from him, you know, on both ends of the floor.
Other questions? Let's go to the third row. And we've got two questions over there. We go to the middle and then on the far left.
Joey Dwyer, Vandy Sports. With Josh being a Mississippi guy, just how good of a representative is he for your program, especially in the state?
Yeah, it's awesome. He's a special young man, like I said before. And again, 15, 16 months, I remember him having one bad day. And it was so bad that I brought him into my office the next day to make sure everything was good, you know, in his life, and everything was fine, because it was so off-brand for him. He's so consistent with his mental approach, his physical approach to, you know, the expectations that we have for him every single day. And it could be, you know, on the floor, off the floor, as you can imagine. Like a lot of these kids now, you know, they've got a lot of temptations. They've got a lot on their plate. There's a lot asked of some of these student athletes. And certainly for us, Josh is probably asked to do more than anybody else in our program. But I know I don't have to worry about him losing his focus. He's always making the right decision, off the court, and he was raised in such a great way that there's no worries that way when it comes to, what you would think coaches worry about. But there's a lot on him. He's the face of our program right now, and certainly him being from the state of Mississippi, makes the story even better.
We had a question on the far left on third row.
Robbie Falk with On 3 and Starkville Daily News. Obviously, you had to replace a really good player in the post in Tolu Smith. You went out in the portal and got two players. What's kind of your assessment so far in practice from what you've seen from the post and the guys that you've put in that position this year?
Yeah, I think the first approach was, hey, we're not going to replace Tolu. That wasn't what we tried to do in the portal. We just needed some guys to come in and compete and hopefully eventually be in position where they can be productive in their own way. We certainly are going to miss Tolu, but everybody loses key players every single year. We're no different. And like you said, we brought in a couple portal kids, Jeremy Fomina from Rhode Island and Michael Nwoko from Miami, and then we've got a third guy, Chol, who was with us last year that played, pretty significant minutes in the fall when Tolu was hurt. Tolu didn't play the first 12 games of our season, and Guy Chol, who was a true freshman that we had planned on redshirting, we couldn't redshirt him anymore. We needed him to play minutes in the fall, and he was a critical part of us winning some big games in the fall, and he didn't play like monster minutes, but he played valuable minutes at the 5 and held his own. So those three are all, in the same boat together, all competing, trying to, find their way, and they're all different. They're all different, and we have Keyshawn Murphy, who is a returner, and knock on wood, it's the healthiest he's ever been. He's never been this healthy since he arrived on a college campus. It's been over a year now. He's had multiple surgeries, so it's stunted his progress, obviously, but he's had an unbelievable offseason. They're really excited about where he's at. It's not ideal to play him at the 5. He's a little light for that position, but he's smart enough, skilled enough, versatile enough that if we have to play him at the 5 in sort of a small ball look, we can do that. But the hope is that, those other 3 guys will continue to get better and progress and figure out a way to get themselves on the court.
Raise your hand. Other questions for Coach Jans? Let's go to the second row on the left.
Jack Pilgrim, KSR. Just curious your thoughts on the transition at Kentucky, Mark Pope taking over that program, and just kind of what it means for the landscape of the SEC.
Yeah, that's a big picture question in terms of what it means for the landscape. I'm just happy for Mark. I know him personally. We were in the WAC together for a couple of years when he was at Utah Valley and I was at New Mexico State, and I had a ton of respect for him then and certainly still do now. He's an excellent coach and even a better person. I was always impressed with how hard he worked at his craft. I would see him on the road recruiting, and he was pretty relentless when it came to that. And I know, he's gone home, if you will, and, back to where his playing days were. And, he's an excellent coach. I look forward to competing against him as the year unfolds again.
Raise your hand. Other questions? Let's come down the front row, and then we'll go to the far back on the left.
Hey, Chris, speaking of changes in the league, I cover Arkansas, and obviously John's there now. I don't know if anybody could have figured on that a few months ago. What are your thoughts on John and what he can bring to Arkansas, and just how, in the coaching community, how big a shockwave was that?
I think it was a pretty big shock. I've got to know Coach Cal, obviously, more so since being in the league, and he's been very kind to me and had some nice conversations with him, but, I'm not in his inner circle where he's calling me to talk about his future options and decisions that he's making. So how that went down, it went down, but, he's obviously a Hall of Fame coach, and he's had a remarkable career, and he made the decision to change it up, if you will, and go to another program. And I'm certain he's probably real excited for that new energy, you get when you take over a program, for those of us that have done that. And I'm sure it's rejuvenated him at the same time.
Any question on the far back on the left?
Hi, Benjamin Rosenberg, Commercial Dispatch. You're getting a chance to play neutral site games all over the state of Mississippi in the non-conference season, including what's essentially amounts to homecoming games for both Josh Hubbard and Cameron Matthews. How important is it to sort of introduce your program to fan bases and groups of fans all over the state of Mississippi, and making sure that more fans are going to be able to see you guys play who can't necessarily make the trip to Starkville?
Yeah, it's been a priority for us since we've arrived. We've played games within our state, not in Humphrey Coliseum, in all 3 years that I've been the head coach here. And certainly it's been for a variety of reasons. You mentioned, a main reason was to be able to bring the games to them, if you will, not have them to have to travel to us so much. And that's been a big reason why we've been able to do that, or made the decision to do that. But at the same time, there's other factors that come into it. Certainly they're considered neutral games, so it's easier to get a quad 1 or quad 2 opportunity when you play them at a neutral site rather than having your opponent always play at the friendly confines of your home arena. So that always comes into play. And then the NIL factor. Most of those games have NIL piece, and it's obviously changing, weekly or monthly or daily, if you will. But at the time when we were trying to figure out how we could, inch up where we're at with that was an area that we decided to look into, and it's been good for us so far.
Raise your hand. Other questions for Coach Jans? Okay, let's go to the front row on the left.
Hi, Coach. AP Stidham, AP and Kelly, as we see. Coach, what would you like people to know about Mississippi State, this version of your team?
Yeah, this version is going to be different than the other two. We've been an inside-out team since I've arrived. We, throw the ball inside, play through our bigs. It's kind of how I was raised in basketball, and it's been, done well for us thus far. But because of our roster makeup this year, we've had to transition to more of an outside-in team. The strength of our team will be on the perimeter as opposed to being around the basket. I don't think I've had this many shooters, scorers on a team before. I think we're going to score more points than we have in the past, which I'm sure is music to the ears of many of our fans. It may be a struggle for me. I don't think, on paper anyway, our defense will be quite as stout as maybe it's been in the past. I'm nervous about the rebounding game within the game, and I don't necessarily want to just rely on being able to score the basketball. That's not really in my DNA, but at the same time, we've modernized our offense. We're playing with more space in mind, a lot more dribble drive. We've got multiple playmakers, multiple guys that can shoot the basketball. We're going to be able to spread the defense out a little bit more than maybe in the past. And then the other thing that we're real proud of since we've arrived is our retention rate. We haven't lost any players that we haven't wanted that wanted to come back. We've been very good about being able to keep the good players that we've been fortunate enough to get in either the portal or just high school recruiting. And, we're batting an unbelievable percentage of the players that we want to be back for the next year's team. And I think it speaks volumes about their experience in Starkville, of living in the community, of being a student at Mississippi State, with the portal, et cetera, and not having to, sit out anymore. I mean, kids obviously are leaving at an unbelievable rate, and I just think it says a lot about, their experience they're having in Starkville, not just in our program and being around us and their teammates, but more importantly, being a part of the university, being a part of the Starkville community, and it makes us feel pretty good about it.
We have time for one more question for Coach Jans. Anyone? Last call. All right, let's go to the middle, third row.
Just back to Josh Hubbard, what are the things about his game that make him stand out? What makes him special?
You can't judge a book by its cover, right? I mean, he's not been blessed with a ton of size or length, but, it's not slowed him down at all. And I think people underestimate him on the court because he's just so good at, either off the catch, off a handoff, off the bounce, where he'll rise up and shoot it. And when he gets into that mode, it's like he's 6'5". I mean, he gets off the floor so quickly, and he has an old school jump shot where he gets off the floor, and it happens so fast that I think it puts the defense on their heels. And he loves the big moments. And he loves the big moments. He likes the ball in his hands. He likes taking the big shots. And even as a freshman, he took some big shots for us. And he's not bothered by the lights, the bright lights, the platforms, the SEC. He's so even-keeled. Like, when you watch him play, you wouldn't know if he's, in the midst of a 20, 25-point game or a 5 or a 10-point game. He rarely changes his demeanor, and he's that way in practice too. And so he's just got a lot of great qualities to him.
Thank you, Coach Jans.
All right, appreciate it. Hail State.
Couple of reminders, the reception